Elliot was a gifted musician, known for his raw, emotive guitar playing and his ability to craft songs that spoke directly to the soul. However, his talents in music did not extend to managing his finances. For years, his financial situation had been a mess. With a full calendar of gigs, recording sessions, and creative projects, Elliot had little time or inclination to track his income or expenses. Money came in from royalties, performances, and brand deals, but it slipped through his fingers just as quickly as it arrived. Bills piled up, taxes loomed large, and his manager struggled to keep up with the constant financial chaos that seemed to follow Elliot wherever he went. While he poured his heart into music, the practical side of life, keeping his finances afloat, was a constant worry, eating away at his peace of mind. His artistic world was full of beauty, but his financial world was full of looming threats and constant stress. During one of his many meetings with his manager to discuss upcoming shows and new music projects, Elliot was introduced to Clara, an accountant hired to help clean up the mess his finances had become. Clara, a precise, sharp-minded woman in her early 30s, had been working in corporate finance for several years but found herself drawn to the challenge of helping artists manage their money. She was practical but not cold, meticulous but not uninspired by the music that filled Elliot's world. At first, Elliot felt uneasy about the idea of someone going through his financial records. He had always prided himself on his independence, and handing over control of his finances to anyone felt like a loss of creative freedom. But Clara wasn't there to control him, she was there to help him get back on track. Her calm, efficient manner was unlike anyone he had encountered in the business. She didn't judge him for his lack of financial knowledge. Instead, she focused on finding solutions, offering suggestions, and organizing the chaos into something manageable. In her eyes, Elliot saw someone who wasn't just interested in numbers but in his future as an artist. Her ability to blend the practical with the creative quickly won his respect, even if he couldn't fully admit it at first. Their working relationship began with simple meetings, Clara going through his records and offering advice, Elliot trying his best to keep up. At first, it was purely transactional. Clara would send him reports, and Elliot would provide the necessary information for her to process. But something unexpected began to happen. Clara, unlike his previous accountants, asked questions about his music, about what he wanted to achieve, and what his plans were beyond just the next album or tour. She wanted to understand him, not just his financials. At first, Elliot thought this was merely a tactic to build rapport, but he soon realized that Clara genuinely cared about his work. She'd ask about his songwriting process, what inspired his latest project, or even how he felt about the direction his career was taking. Her interest wasn't just professional, it was personal. Elliot was used to people seeing him as a walking paycheck or a brand, but Clara saw him as an artist, someone with a story and a passion, not just an income stream. As she learned more about his creative struggles and triumphs, she became a kind of emotional sounding board as well, someone to share his highs and lows, even when they had nothing to do with money. As they continued to work together, their relationship started evolving beyond the confines of the office or conference calls. Clara had always been someone who enjoyed structure and routine, but Elliot's world of constant changes, musical inspiration, and fluctuating schedules intrigued her. They began spending more time together outside of meetings, grabbing coffee after long sessions or attending local shows together. Clara started to learn more about the life of a touring musician, the sacrifices, the late nights, the travel, the constant juggling of schedules, and Elliot started to understand the intricacies of managing a business. He began to appreciate how much work went into creating financial stability, especially for someone who had to juggle creative pursuits with practical responsibilities. It wasn't long before they were discussing everything from the philosophical, what is the true value of art in today's world, to the personal, how do you reconcile dreams with reality? These conversations gave them a deeper sense of connection, and Elliot found himself opening up to Clara in ways he hadn't with anyone else in a long time. He started to look forward to their meetings not just for the financial advice she gave, but for the friendship that had quietly blossomed in the background. It wasn't just Clara's support with numbers that helped Elliot, it was the way she grounded him. As a creative person, Elliot often found himself overwhelmed by the emotional highs and lows of his work. A new album release could fill him with excitement, but the inevitable slump afterward would leave him drained and anxious. In these moments, Clara's calm presence became a source of stability. She helped him see that success wasn't just about a hit song or a big contract, it was about consistency and long-term planning. She often suggested that he set aside time each week not just for music, but for personal reflection, something he had never prioritized. Clara introduced him to mindfulness practices that helped him reconnect with himself when the stress of touring and recording felt too overwhelming. She encouraged him to create a financial buffer that would allow him to take breaks without worrying about the next paycheck. Over time, Elliot came to appreciate these small but meaningful changes in his life. His creative energy became more sustainable, and his anxiety about money began to ease. Through Clara, he learned that to create great art, he also needed to take care of the parts of himself that were often neglected. As their friendship deepened, Elliot began to feel that Clara was more than just an accountant. She was someone who had become integral to his sense of balance, not just financially, but emotionally. He began to notice the little ways their personalities complemented each other. Clara was grounded, dependable, and logical, while Elliot was spontaneous, emotionally driven, and sometimes unpredictable. Together, they formed a kind of equilibrium. While Clara helped him make rational decisions about money, Elliot helped her tap into her own creative side, something she hadn't given much attention to in years. Clara started to take guitar lessons, albeit slowly and with a lot of encouragement from Elliot, and they even collaborated on small projects where music and numbers intertwined. For instance, Clara helped Elliot design a merchandise line that was both profitable and artistically aligned with his music. He helped her write a song about her journey with numbers, which she would later play for her friends. Their worlds were so different, but together, they found ways to blend them. It was a partnership that grew into something far deeper than either had expected when they first met. Late one evening, after a particularly successful album launch, Elliot and Clara stood together outside a venue, watching the city lights flicker in the distance. The night had been a celebration of hard work, his music was finally reaching the audience it deserved, and Clara had helped him make it happen. As they stood there in the cool air, Elliot turned to her, his face serious but soft. "Clara," he began, "I'm not sure I could have done this without you." Clara, looking at him with an easy smile, shrugged. "You did all the work. I just helped you keep track of it." But Elliot could hear the sincerity in her voice. He knew that what they had built together was about more than numbers or music. They had formed a true partnership, one where both their strengths complemented each other in ways neither had ever anticipated. In that moment, Elliot realized that their connection was unique, something rare and deeply valuable. It wasn't just about the music or the finances, it was about trust, respect, and the quiet understanding that they were better together than apart.